I've been a member here since 1990, and my husband and I joined back when I was pregnant with our daughter Allison, and we have just been a big part of this church. It's been a big part of our life and our family all along as they've grown up, and now I have two grandchildren, one of whom's been baptized here and the other will be shortly.
I think I joined in 1985. I think I first darkened the doors my junior year of college and joined in 85 and have been a member here ever since. I think it's the only post-I do argument I won was that we would be Presbyterians, not Episcopalians. Elizabeth grew up down the street at St. George's, but we've been here for a long time and have loved the church, and all three of the kids grew up here.
Well, the visioning committee came out because I think really it's been about 10 years since we did this, and Westminster is a strong church and a growing church, but a lot of things have changed in the last 10 years. Really, one of the most remarkable things I think was the experience of COVID and having an empty church and the pastors preaching to an empty congregation and a camera. So coming out of that, we said, let's think about who we are, let's think about who we should be, and let's just take a time out to really pause and envision where we are and where we should be.
I think Terry's right, and I think a couple other things are happening. I mean, here we are celebrating the 150th anniversary of this congregation, and we've been through COVID, we've been through a major building project, we've got incredible opportunity ahead of us with what's going on in our city and the opportunities around us, that it's just a great time to stop and think about where we're headed and who God calls us to be. And we've got, we also have some practical issues in the transition of people who have run this church for a long time as they mature and go on to do other things, that we want to equip the church for the congregation to be as strong as it can be going forward. The original premise was that it was a discernment committee as much as a visioning committee, and those terms get interchanged a lot. And it really drove off of Donovan's view of what transpired the last 3 years and where things were headed, both denominationally as well as in our congregation specifically. And the wonderful thing was, as this past fall emerged and we went into the new year of 23, there's been an incredible resurgence of people's attendance, participation in things at the church, and I think a real light bulb went on about opportunity. And so Donovan he's such a visual person that really drove a lot of this. And given that he was looking at what the balance of his tenure was and what he, the imprint that he and all the staff would like to make, that really, set the course this fall. And we began meeting in September and have been meeting once or twice a month all the way through, and then opened it up to the broader congregation as we began to get some parameters around it in late April.
We wanted to really start listening, and so we had 3 different congregational meetings, sessions in Fellowship Hall, where we asked some really very fundamental questions. What do you think the world's deepest hunger is? What do you think that you need from a church, from Westminster? What do you think God is calling us to be? And that really opens up a kind of a real deep thought when people are sitting talking to each other about these kinds of questions. And it's exposed some questions about really human needs, a need to feel loved and belong and welcomed and have a place to be in a community. And that's our starting point. We've had 3 sessions that were open to everyone in Fellowship Hall. We're going to hold some sessions with smaller focus groups to get more input from other age groups, some of the groups that weren't as well represented in that group. So that's really where we are today.
And I thought a fascinating thing that our consultant, Bill Wilson, who's been a joy to work with, he put it in a framework of what are our godlike dreams? And that's such a huge concept. And in the context of that, he was saying, it's a time to think really big about the opportunity of the church and what we're called to be, and not to get bogged down in calendar moments we can take the godlike dreams and put calendar moments that actually allow us to achieve the things that we're called to be. But it was to me, I just love the concept of godlike dreams.
We're in the point now we're listening. We're listening to people in the congregation and the community, and we will be gleaning from this. What does this mean to us as a church? And then we'll be rolling back out and getting more input. So it's a process where we don't go into it with a preconceived idea. And even though Donovan started the process, I think he's really a part of the listening too. We're all as a group listening and trying to understand, and it's been a really remarkable experience so far.
All right. I think thinking about the future for Westminster is a reflection of the past, and this church has been built on, phenomenal preaching, beautiful worship, fantastic music, and I think those things are all going to carry forward in our educational processes and opportunities. We're just in such an interesting world now where, our denomination has gone from over 2 million people to 1.2 million people. And so what are the implications of that? What does that mean going forward? How do we think of ourselves in the broader world? And in light of the change that's happening in this community, so much of it in the last 20 years, really a reflection on who God calls us to be, what this community can do. Terry was talking about it earlier. This community of faith can have such an impact on so many people, and whether it's Westminster Home Connection or Room in the Inn or the myriad of things that we try to do, joy in learning, there is so much more that we can do, and our ability to engage our broader congregation and really listen and do what God calls us to do will make us vibrant in the face of a time period in America where traditional religion and church participation is in a decline. I think we're in a chance to be phenomenally growing.
I really think that one of the things that I've been so just involved with the church and such a joy to me is the church's heart. This is a church with a lot of resources among its congregation, and when the awareness is obvious to people and when they see the opportunity, people really do step up. I was a part of founding Nations Ministry Center, which works with immigrants and refugees, and being out in the community and really knowing people and being known, it changes us as much as it changes the people we're connected with. Same thing with Westminster Home Connection. And so I found it just to be a remarkable place of love, but sometimes we don't know, right? We don't know, but when we become aware and we reach out in the community, I think that's part of our future, and it's part of our past. I want this congregation to be relevant for my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. I think it's a remarkable place. I think our theology is loving. It has accountability to it, but it's a loving and accepting place.
But selfishly, I want to see the extraordinary opportunities that this church is presented with in the next 25 years. I'm in a new phase in my life. My children are just leaving the house. We're not to grandchildren or anything yet, and I just want to see what this place can do. I think it has an appreciation for the frailty of the human being and for the desire to really want to help people and be an amazing resource to the world. And selfishly, I want to really enjoy that over the next 25 years. And with the transitions that are ahead of us, we're going to start to see it really soon. And I think we really want people through this discernment process to be confident about that and to be appreciative of that, appreciative of who we had and appreciative of who's to come, because over the span of the next half a dozen years, we're going to have a meaningful transition in our ordained and non-ordained senior staff, and that should be exciting and enjoyable, not something to be terrified of or worried about. My 3900 West End Avenue is a pretty unique address. What I like about it, it is truly in the core of Nashville. It is less than 2 miles from downtown. It is adjacent to the further outlying communities. It is a place that can see great opportunity and great need at the same time. And we have an ability to impact that by being welcoming, as Terry talked about earlier, because I think that's a big piece of all of this. It sounds really simple, but it's harder to be. And I think as our community broadens and changes, our ability to be welcoming is going to ultimately change the nature of our composition and the opportunities of who we get to know and get to serve.
I think that the thing I want people to take away from is, whether you're listening to this right now, whether you're listening to it 100 years from now, to think about our history of being reformed and always reforming. Think about what we're doing today, what you're doing today, and what your dreams and hopes are, and what you think God is calling you to do in the world you're in right now. Because I don't think this is a one-time thing. I think we're going to do it and continue to do it, and it's healthy.
Terry, I think that's great. We did a 2013 visioning that led us to the enhancement of our physical plant to do more things to serve God. We survived COVID, and we've got a re-energizing, and we're going to go through transition. And I think, just like Westminster has been here for 150 years in its broader perspective, the goal here is to with regularity, do these sorts of things that allow us to be thoughtful about what our path is and how we're responding to God's word.